Okay, we're live, which means that anything you say from this point on may be recorded and used in evidence against you.
That's right. Be careful what you say.
Right.
No talking trash about, anyone, unless you want it known.
No.
So
We'd never do that anyway.
Well, not while the red light is on.
Yes.
We've learned. Fantastic. So this is a super special episode.
It is.
I'm trying to think. I'm not even sure how we start one where we have essentially a student takeover. This is fantastic. So I think normally we waste all this time doing cold open, which is one of my favorite parts, I will say. But yeah, I think we should just crack the show right open and just kind of get into this amazing conversation, because we've got two amazing undergraduate ASU students with us today.
Yes.
So
want
to make sure we give them
who we're gonna get to dish the dirt on what it's like to be a student at ASU, but more importantly, what it's like to be a student in an age of AI.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and so let's just kick it off.
Okay.
Initializing waveform.
Modulating signals for transmission.
Exploring the possible, probable, and preferable futures.
Welcome to Modem Futura. I'm Sean Leahy, joined with my co-host extraordinaire,
Andrew Maynard.
and that means this is Modem Futura, the show that examines the intersection of technology, society, and the possible, probable, and preferable futures, asking deep questions like, what does it mean to be human in the future? Fantastic. So how about we do that? Can we just do this? So Caleb, can I ask you just to introduce yourself? So we know who you are, but also where you are in your undergraduate studies.
Yeah, so Caleb Lieberman, and I'm a sophomore in my studies.
Sophomore. Good. We 2 more. So we got 2 more years, basically.
Studying.
Yeah. What are you studying?
Studying innovation and society.
Excellent.
What is that?
Right. No, don't ask that. Don't ask that. You might expose the whole thing here. Yes.
What is it? All right, and Bella, please, introduce yourself.
So I'm Bella Faria. I'm a second-year student. I'm studying innovation, society, and public policy.
All right.
Excellent.
Fantastic. I'm Sean. I'm still studying what it means to be.
I'm Andrew, and I've forgotten everything that I ever studied
I know.
for, which is why I now do a podcast.
I'm still just trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
So, whether it's inspiring or terrifying, when you still are trying to figure out exactly what that is.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for being here, because we love having. I can speak for myself, but Andrew, I think I can echo you in this as well. We get super excited when we have guests join us, but it's extra exciting having guests who are of a younger demographic, because we often talk about you, right? In the sense that we're like students.
You personally, you realize he's not talking in general terms. We sit here, Caleb and Bella.
And Bella. How is it? Well, now that'll probably work out where I'm like, how is this going to impact? How is this going to impact Caleb and Bella?
Yeah.
But honestly, often we've been talking about the role, the impact, the challenges, the opportunities, all these things around artificial intelligence for quite some time, especially with generative AI. And we often are talking about students, about younger adults, about how it's changing, how it's going to change your life. You don't know it yet, but all these things. And so I'm really excited just to have you guys here today so that we can just ask you directly. Instead of talking about you, we want to talk with you about what these things are, because no one knows what that feels like to be living in this intersection than you guys do, because this is your daily life. So
I don't know. Caleb, why don't you kick us off? What is it like being a student in an age of AI? Is it impacting anything? Are you a covert AI user where you don't tell anybody that you're actually using it in class? Are you in classes where the instructor tells you don't use it, or are people embracing it? What on earth is it like?
So,
hold on. While you think about that for a second, because you're both sophomores. Yeah. So your first year in university was which calendar year? 2022? Fall of or 23?
23, I think. Yes.
23. Yeah. Okay, so the Gen AI Cambrian explosion of November 22 had happened your senior year of high school, basically.
Yes.
Okay, so you have started university experience with tools like ChatGPT available out in whether you were using them or not, they were already on the scene.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just setting that stage, because I am curious too, because I've talked to some students before who were graduating like last year, and they were, a computer science major. And when they started, there was, they didn't have those tools. And by
Right.
the time they graduated, they did. So,
yes,
so this is also fascinating. That is the first time you have not been in university without the global presence of generative AI.
ChatGPT natives.
Yeah. Gen AI? Gen squared AI? Like, how do we do this? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, Caleb, back
How's
to you.
it been?
So, how's it been?
I'm an AI regular user.
Okay, good.
And I would say, of the most important technologies that I use at ASU, AI is number one.
Mm-hmm. So what do you use? Are there any ASU tools you use, or is this just you sort of grabbing together things that you can subscribe to?
Yeah, so plenty of subscriptions, but I would say,
and are these subscriptions? So okay, also like Cone of Silence, like right?
It's only the four of us.
It's just the four, but I am curious. So in terms, because I think it would be fascinating too to sort of peel back that layer of like, I use a lot of AI tools because in my workflow, I could explicitly, within reason, the things that you can decouple from just baked in. I could lay out, for example, like what are the tools that I do use. So I'm curious, when you say like you have lots of subscriptions, like what are you talking about? Do you have like ChatGPT subscriptions, Midjourney type things? Like, you don't have to be that specific if you don't want to. But just, what are those tools that you're using?
Well, so actually I have, so I have a ChatGPT subscription and I speak with him.
Okay,
so
right.
I actually have a name for AI. It's Arthur Ivan. That's what I call it.
Okay.
AI. And
so you've really personalized it.
Really personalized it. And so I'll walk around campus and, as I'm getting from place to place, it looks like I'm taking a phone call, but I'm really just talking about
interesting.
So you haven't got the earpiece in, you've just got the phone up to your ear.
Just talking with Arthur Ivan about the thoughts and the ideas and bouncing it. So it's like the second brain, and I go back and forth.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Bella, do you have a second brain?
I would say so. I use it every single day. I have it as a tab open on my computer 24/7. I do not have the Plus right now. I need to get it. I know it's available through
So you
ASU.
got the free version.
I have the free version. I subscribed to it a while back, but it is quite expensive. So
yes, it is.
And I feel like I did just see a thing that OpenAI for
3 months.
For 3 months. Which is kind of, it's better than nothing, but it's also sort of like.
Is it 3 or 6 months? I
think it was through like the end of May or something.
Perplexity as well.
Until the end of finals, which is very convenient.
And they're going to turn that off and be like, you like what you had there? Come on, $20.
No, yeah. So I use it all the time. I would even say like I use it. I was thinking about it as I was walking over here. Spotify, and I'm curious if their DJX is a form of AI, because I use that all the time.
Interesting.
And I was thinking,
but how do you use that? So I think it is. I've heard something about this. I mean, sort of, what does DJX do? Just sort of line up the next piece of music, or do you talk to it? Or?
It cultivates a playlist to what you listen to, but I don't even know how to describe it. They queue up like 3 to 4 songs of what you listen to.
Yep.
And I don't know. I love it. I
Okay,
was first
yeah,
a hater, but I absolutely love it.
I said I would look it up, but my laptop's over there. But I'm curious if this is the same piece, or maybe they're just connected, because I know, OpenAI, Spotify was catching a lot of sort of controversy a few weeks, maybe it's a month ago, around their procedurally generated music. Have you noticed? So if you're familiar with sort of like the beats to chill, or study, the lo-fi, or even just like dinner party background music, that Spotify has been using AI to generate just background music like that, and they're inserting them in playlists. And the controversy, of course, is that artists aren't getting paid for this anymore.
Yes,
but I'm curious, do you know if you've been? Well, one is just a direct question. Do you know if you're listening to AI generated music in these playlists?
I do not. I would not know.
All right.
But I would be fascinated to
find out if you're. Yeah. Yeah.
But you like the list.
I know. I
yeah.
love
Regardless,
it.
right?
It makes my life a little easier. I don't have to queue up anything. I know
Sure.
what I like to listen
and I've
to.
got to say, so this is something I've been wanting forever. So you know what it's been like in the past, starting with places like Netflix, where they queue up things that they think you're going to watch. But usually it's stuff that is so simply based on sort of things that you've watched before. So there's no originality there.
No.
And I've been dying for an AI that gets to know you and surprises you with stuff. So it sounds like that's what it's beginning to do.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm fascinated by this because I personally am not a big Spotify user. Although it's a great place to listen to Modem Futura.
It's back to this thing. You don't listen to Spotify apart from Modem Futura, where you have it on a sort of continuous loop.
That's right. You walk into my home and you're just bathed in the audio waves of Modem Futura coming from Spotify. But I'm curious too, when you're using it, how much does that recommend? So the automatic DJ in that sense, right? Who's like spinning up tracks just for Bella. I'm curious how much variety does that, because we've seen this forever. I mean, in moving beyond like Netflix, I mean, the recommendation engine, I feel like across all of these tools is usually just, it's painful.
Yes.
There are things that you're like, yes, I listen to that all the time. I'd like more discovery or, whatever. And so like, even with old things like Pandora, right? Which is still around, but I'm curious how much do you notice that it changes based on your behavior of other songs that you go out and find? Like, when you use this automatic DJ, are you noticing it like adapting to new discoveries that you've made, or if someone else sends you a playlist or something, like, does it? I'm just curious how much you notice.
I would say sometimes when I queue up a song, I'll find it more frequently when it is in the DJ X queue. But I would say every 15 to 20 minutes, it queues up like 3 to 5 songs that are similar to that of the artist that I listened to already.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then I think that's where the discovery aspect
Right.
comes from.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by it.
Actually sounds pretty cool. Yeah. So beyond the Spotify stuff, are there other things you're using AI for at the moment?
I would say the biggest thing I use it for, ChatGPT in general, is when there is a peer-reviewed article that I do not have time to read, I plug it in there and I get a summary from it.
So there's a whole country of students thinking, I'm with you. Who has time to read any of these readings that we're given?
No, it's a lot. And, I believe I overloaded myself this semester.
Right.
And, there will be a point where I will have free time and I will be able to read them. And that's what I tell myself. And I hope.
So pause there. I love this attitude. You go through the 4 years of your degree and you end up with this stack of readings where you think, one day when I've got some time, I'm going to read
the new summer reading list. You're like, I'll get to that.
No, I feel like I'm able to do more with the aid of AI.
Sure.
And,
and extract the stuff that is useful. Have you ever used Google's, what is it?
The Notebook LM.
Notebook LM, which will create a podcast.
I do. I've not.
Oh,
have you?
yeah.
Caleb, you have.
Yes, I have. It's embedded in certain, actually some courses.
Oh,
interesting.
Serious.
Yes.
So in the course, you can actually sort of dial in Notebook LM and
It'll be a supplement to the readings.
Interesting.
So
do you use the podcast element to actually have
or has somebody already created the podcast?
Tell us. It's no good, is it?
It's been created. So the way I go about it is I do the readings the night before, and then I wake up in the morning, and if for the get ready for the early morning class, I play the podcast of the readings so I can listen to it.
I haven't heard this before. So now just get.
But you're doing it.
No. This is the instructors that are doing it. It's the instructor that is creating a podcast using Notebook LM and putting it into the course.
That's right.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
That's Well, don't name names.
Mistaken.
But,
I was mistaken. I have used it.
Oh, okay.
You just didn't realize.
Yeah, just now I realized.
There's this really smart couple of instructors that are just creating these podcasts just for you.
So just to clarify, because I'm going to be pedantic about this. So when you're listening to that, you're not in the Notebook LM environment.
No.
It's the audio file that has been uploaded to Canvas or the learning management system or something. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. But do you use it separately to that? Have you ever used it to create your own podcast?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally,
Yeah.
just to hear what it would.
Yeah, they're no good. Don't listen to those.
Listen to us.
The podcast must be human created.
But I do find this absolutely fascinating because, I mean, we've talked about this on the show, and my experience has been the podcasts that Notebook LM creates are incredibly compelling. They feel very natural.
Yeah.
But actually, Notebook LM brings in additional material from the paper that it's working from, and it makes stuff up.
Yeah.
So one of the things it does is it tries to find analogies to help you understand the material, and those analogies are completely made up. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're accurate, really bad.
They're wild.
And I wonder how much filtering there is there by the instructors.
I've had certain podcasts from the Notebook LM have had bakery and pastry references 3 times within the same.
Right.
When you're building your argument, it's like assembling a 3-layered cake.
Yeah,
you know,
I've heard that one. Yeah.
And then of course you have the classic. Tell me more about that cake. You know, the other character on the podcast. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, I it's interesting because. You know, I think that that's interesting that's even being presented to you as a student of the class is in some ways a curated element from the Notebook LLM, like the retrieval, data that it's doing up on whatever documents was fed. I would be curious though as to, because there's a loss there, which is if you're not able to access like the actual notebook itself, you lose some of the really powerful tools, which is to be able to query that same notebook on questions that you have.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, have you ever experienced that? Has anybody ever, as a class, allowed you into like and can you even share those? Are they?
I thought you could.
I think you can, right? You can make them, or you can make them public, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I was just curious if you've had that experience at all with like a sandbox of a Google LLM.
Not quite.
Or Google
that
Notebook
could
LM.
be the next.
Yeah, no, that would be really interesting. So yes, you listen to the podcast, and if you've got a question, you ask it, and it actually sort of changes and gives you an answer to that question. That could actually be quite cool.
Yeah. Well, because I'm thinking, again, with these systems that Andrew, do you remember what the acronym, the RAG, the Retrieval Augmented Generation? Something?
Possibly, yeah.
Something like that, where basically it's only using the documents you feed it to generate, hopefully to remove as many hallucinations or just errors. But you could see the value of having like all of your papers just, in there and just being able to talk to it and query it.
So I've got to ask you this, especially leading on, Bella, from what you said about the papers. How attractive as a student is it if all of these readings you get in a class, you could yourself just put them into a podcast and listen to a 5 or 10 minute podcast rather than reading the papers?
Oh, it's very attractive.
Okay.
But the thing is this brings up a concern of mine. Like, I feel there's more to these papers, and like, so much time has been. I don't know. Sometimes I feel some ethical issues of.
Okay, but how big a concern is this? Is it big enough to get you to change any habits, or do you just sort of feel bad about listening to the podcast if you're going to do that? Yes.
I just feel bad.
I mean, like in my day, we just go down to the bookstore and buy the Cliff Notes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? You would do.
It's the equivalent.
It's the equivalent of having a summary of these things.
But I think you're right. This is the tension people have, because especially if you've got a really dense paper or a book chapter or even a book, there's nuance there that certainly, not necessarily as an undergraduate, but as a researcher or scholar, you'll be pulling out the nuance, and you absolutely miss that if you just have the summary. On the other hand, if you're just trying to sort of get up to speed really fast with an area, it is really attractive.
Well, and I think about it too. I mean, even just coming from like a pedagogical perspective of trying to find different tools and technologies to create greater affordances for different learning styles. Like I myself am a very strong auditory learner. If I was listening in a lecture hall or something like that, if I heard it, I would remember it forever. If I read it, not the same.
And so to both of you, is that actually how you learn? Because I'm also hearing that from this current generation, it's more sort of listening to things than reading. Is that true for you?
I would say so. I mean, at the start of the year, I think progressively as the semester went on, I've become more busier. But at the start, for my readings, I would actually AI listen to them.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Just have it read it?
Yeah, read it in a... sometimes I would be like Barack Obama's voice, and I would listen to it, and
just revealing a lot about you.
And
I like it.
and I would say I'm more of a
listener.
The listener.
Yeah, an auditory.
Okay, so
yeah.
Caleb, which voice do you use?
What does Arthur sound like? Or what was his name? Arthur, was it? Arthur AI? Who's your buddy?
Arthur Ivan. Yeah.
Arthur
Ivan's my
okay.
buddy. So that's the one.
Of course, it's AI.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Arthur Ivan, I listen, I've been listening a lot to audiobooks lately. I've been on a spree of historical biographies.
Yeah.
And I like to, a student at ASU, here's another insight is we get to do a lot of our work by the pool and so sit outside and read books.
Goodness me, the revelations coming out here.
I mean, what do you learn by the pool? You're supposed to be freezing somewhere with like snow and, building character from the harshness of the...
To be a student in Arizona in 2025, lounging by the pool with your headphones on, listening to your AI.
Yeah.
That's not a bad way to do it. I'm just going to be honest. That's just jealousy of that I didn't discover that when I was, your age.
So can I just say, you can do all of this in Arizona and study future of innovation in society by the pool with your AI.
The pool. That's right. That's right. No, that is quite fascinating. And then so let me. I'm trying to think of how to ask this question. I don't want to put anybody on the spot to be like. You can always answer with. A friend of mine,
or say, you must be joking. I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, hypothetically,
right.
So one of the constant, the constant points of view when we talk about artificial intelligence, learning, students is, and I think Andrew and I, we've talked about this, I think at length of sort of our stance on the sort of, in my opinion, sort of a ridiculous claim of it's only going to be used to cheat and things like that. But I am curious from the student's perspective. What is your like gut reaction that you feel when it's like, all right, here's your assignment, and classmates are just maybe doing all of it via some sort of AI tool. Some students may be doing it completely traditional in the sense of not using any tool or intentionally choosing to stay away from them. And I'm just kind of curious, like from your perspective, how has that sort of that feeling in class, how has that like evolved over time? Is it just this? Is it class by class? Is it I'm just curious to like put myself in that undergraduate student mind frame, sitting in a class with a bunch of your peers, and what is sort of like the feeling of that? What is the vibe of that, of using AI for the work that you are creating? Yeah. If it's not explicitly said, hey, please use AI to do this or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see it as an amplification of the values that already exist and the behaviors that already exist. I mean, if students are cheating, AI makes it easier for them to cheat, so they're going to cheat.
Yep.
But if you're a student that's that's authentic and original in your work, then we're going to continue down.
It amplifies that as well.
Amplifies that as well.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I had a conversation. This was feels like a long time ago now with Ryan Baker. And a lot of his research was originally on those giant, the massive online open courses like the MOOCs.
Yes.
And even back then, sort of like the learning engineering thing was like, oh, students are just going to cheat and they do it. But they have a lot of longitudinal studies that it's like, yeah, if students take shortcuts and cheat, it's no surprise they do poorly over long term because they're not learning what they need to learn. They're taking those shortcuts.
And I've heard this from my students, but do you hear it as well, that this idea that students are truly trying to get the value out of their degrees, so they won't take shortcuts if they think it's going to diminish the value that they're paying for?
Yeah, I mean, if you cheat, you're really cheating yourself,
right?
And you may not see it, and maybe maybe a long term, but.
No, I would have to agree. Thinking about this, I wouldn't say there's two types of students, but if I were to categorize, we have one group of students that, I would say would cheat themselves out of their degree. They're not here necessarily for more so the college experience, especially at ASU. And then you have students, I would say, that use AI more so for expanding their education and
just not to put numbers on it, but do you have a sense that there are a good number of students that see this as an opportunity to accelerate their learning or enhance their learning?
I would say so. I mean, but it definitely could be just the environment I'm around in.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
you're
in your little sort of academic bubble where everybody is an A grade student.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll venture over to the other side, dark side, maybe.
Where Sean and Andrew would be hanging out.
If we were in the UK, we'd say we're the behind the bike sheds crew. I don't know whether you would say yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, if I have seen on the dark side, other side, behind the bike shed, the crew, and I would definitely say, some students.
But it seems like, I'm going back to what you said, Caleb. This has always been the case. You've always got this spectrum of students, and I'm not hearing anything from you that indicates we have a crisis with AI, that it's making things worse.
No.
Yeah. Which is actually really encouraging.
It is.
And it's counter to this sort of existential sort of angst that professors seem to have, where they think that now everybody's going to be cheating because nobody likes education.
Right.
In fact, actually, let me just ask you this on that, because there is this attitude that students have to be force-fed learning and education because nobody wants to do it because it's boring. I don't agree with that, but I'm fascinated from your perspectives. So I'm going to ask you one at a time. So Caleb, why are you here? Why do you learn? What's the value of learning for you? And do you feel as if you have to be sort of force-fed, or education needs to be sugar-coated for you?
No, not quite. So, why am I here? It's a good question. Here in the college of
I ask myself that every day.
Rather than
why am I here?
Right. But the reason I was compelled to come to College of Global Futures, is I was really interested in what are the global issues, what are the risks in the world that are shaping the landscape. And then I decided on the School for the Future of Innovation. The reason is because what are the tools that in the innovations in order to address some of the global challenges in the world. And so for me, if AI if AI could do something and take all the tools and make the difference in the world, then it already it's like it's like I need to have personal agency. And so for me, if the learning is of value and it's actually this is something I can take into my life and bring out into making it an impact, then it's going to be, then what's the value of using AI to cheat that?
Right, and I love that idea of you have that mission and that vision, and ASU and all the tools here and the stuff you're learning is just sort of enhancing your ability to follow that.
The mission's not to get the degree; it's to ultimately go out into the world and do something with what I've learned.
Bella, does that resonate?
100%.
Okay,
what Caleb just last said? I don't know. I wish I could quote that.
Hold on,
rewind. Because, ultimately, I'm here, I would say I'm purpose driven. I've always been go with the flow, and my education has shaped who I am and what I want to achieve. And, the College of Global Futures is perfect for that. We address complex issues that I believe everybody can notice that the world is facing. And, with every program and class I'm able to take within the college, it shapes who I am and shapes my ultimate purpose that I will continuously be cultivating throughout, my life and, whatever career path I decide to go down. And,
so you could probably see I'm almost tearing up here.
And no money was exchanged for these testimonies.
But to me, and of course we sort of talk about things like what's it mean to be human, what's the point or value of education, but I think you've just captured exactly how I feel about it. It's a process that allows you to achieve what you aspire to while actually growing and maturing and sort of changing perspectives and ideas on the way. It's not, well, to some people, it is just about getting a piece of paper that gets you a job, that gets you money. And that's important to some people. But my sense is for a lot of people, this is a part of being able to be who they are and expand who they are and have the sort of impact they want. And I would just add, because I'm sure people are listening and thinking, we cherry picked you two. We chose the two brightest, sort of most sort of aspirational and inspirational students on campus. I would say that the classes I teach with undergraduates, the majority of them are the same. They're here because of the journey, because of how it helps them sort of really become more of what they are and want to be, and the impact that they want to have and the vision they have for their future. Which is why it's so exciting to hear you say that. And this was totally unprompted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. 'Cause one of the things, I mean, for me, from my perspective, teaching, one of the things that has always been a limitation or kind of, I mean, even somewhat frustrating is when you're teaching a course, and of course you have your, the learning objectives throughout the course, the content, the materials. And there's always this, like, from my perspective, I'm like, I'm only able with the time I have with this group of students, I can only take you so far. Right. But there's always this desire to, like, have those students find and see the connections to how this fits into the broader landscape, professionally, globally, societally, all those kind of things. And that's one thing that I get excited about also in terms of, like, the leveraging the use of students intentionally engaging with things like AI is I can give you 2 papers to read before next class, right? And even those papers are going to be very limited in what they can cover. Mm-hmm. But by using tools like, AI, for example, not only can you get summaries of those tools, but you can query it and how this fits in the bigger picture. And it's just, there's this fascinating potential for just this continuously blossoming sphere of knowledge around each individual. And that is just incredibly exciting.
And so building on that, actually, I was going to go back to you, Caleb, and ask sort of, what do you sort of talk to your AI about? Because this seems to be critical. Now, if you get this idea of
the things you're allowed to share, remember your mother might be listening.
So let's sort of keep it within sort of appropriateness. But if you think, sort of both of you thinking about, this is an experience and a process that allows you to sort of grow, mature, and change and sort of work out sort of what you do. Now you've got AI in here, which vastly accelerates that or catalyzes it. And I think, just going back to your idea of walking around campus, talking with AI, this seems to be an integral part of it, which is why I'm interested to know sort of what things you're talking about.
It's a moment. It's reflection, a moment for reflection. Some conversations have been, anything from Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, talking about certain historical, mythical figures. And even there's been a time where I was speaking with Arthur in dialects of Hokkien. It's a dialect of it's a language that's spoken in Southeast Asia. And so I say, can you teach me some of the introductory languages there? And so oftentimes it'll be down these certain rabbit holes. I mean, if you were to go through my conversation list, it'd be just these sporadic thoughts.
Yeah. And have you got it on memory? So does it remember? It must remember.
It does. And so so one time I ask it, I say, "Call me Monsieur," because I'm and I say, describe to me a combination of ice cream flavors that would be very good. So it's describing this poetic combination of ice cream flavors. A month later, I'm saying. I said I have to get some things from the grocery store, and it says, and it starts speaking poetically. It says, "Yes, Monsieur." It remembers. It is unprompted. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This is so revealing of you as well. What else do you ask it to call you? Yes, I do know that. But as well, so what I find fascinating here, Bella, I want to see whether this resonates or not, is there is a serendipity here. So you're not just sort of staying within academic lanes and asking academic questions. You're just letting your curiosity run wild, which, this goes back to my physics training. This is so important to me, not being constrained by the things that we think about and wonder about and ask questions of, because ultimately everything sort of seems to gel back together. And I'm fascinated whether that actually makes any sense to you. In fact, actually, I want to know whether you're going to start walking around campus now with your phone glued to your ear.
No, I don't know, maybe, but I think one of the benefits of AI is, like, the curiosity aspect, as you said. It's just being able to be curious at
anything.
Like, it makes you be able to be curious at any moment.
Yeah.
I find myself, whether I'm sitting in a meeting or at a thing, like, you'll just be sitting there and a thought, what used to happen is these thoughts would go through your mind. You're like, interesting thought. I'll save that for later. And very rarely you'd remember those thoughts and be like, let me Google that thing that I was thinking of. And now you're just like, thought, whoop, out it comes, ask the question about whatever it is. And
AI, ADHD, you realize.
I know it's a little dangerous, right?
Right.
But or someone will say something, you're like, what is what? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then sure enough, you just do a quick
it's the second
search.
brain.
Yeah. You just do that
exactly.
quick search to be like, what is this? And you're like, oh, right. That's what it is. Or I never knew about that. And, going from there. So I'm curious about this idea, and I'm curious from your perspective. Now you're finishing your sophomore years of undergraduate studies. I'm still stuck on this idea that you started university with these tools available to you, and I'm just curious: is the university experience what you thought it was going to be?
I mean, the university experience is what you make it of.
Sure.
And I used AI prior to coming to university. Both my parents are teachers, and they were.
And they let you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. My mom's she's an AP seminar teacher.
Okay.
And so she has a degree in English, and she loves AI,
Mm-hmm.
and she wants her students to use it. But you also have to acknowledge, in the K through 12 space, especially within AP, there it's not. Education's quite not there yet.
Yep.
But I've been using AI and exploring AI with my mom at home since
I could
since entering into university. So I couldn't imagine what my university experience would be without the use of AI.
Yeah.
It's just I
sure. Well, I'm just so curious too, because growing up right before, I just thinking about going way back. It feels like for when my sophomore year in college, right, is that you have these experiences, and like for me before, we had newer tech. I think the biggest change was high speed internet. We had CD burners and Napster in our computer labs, right? Which I think
we just got over slide rules when I was there.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a big deal, and everyone's looking at me like, "What's Napster?" You guys but there was always this. You sort of have this imagined what that experience would be like from your, anyone else, or the movies and TV and friends and family and things like that. And so I'm always curious when there are these sort of big shifts that change fundamentally. Like having high speed internet in the dorms is a lot different than before there was internet in the dorms. I can tell you that. But so I am curious, like what that experience, if that experience has been something that you're like, I don't know, because it just is organic to what you make of it? Or do you feel like do you feel that it's different from the people who have come before you, or the students who are, if they're now finishing out as, seniors, or maybe, early graduate students, when they started, they did not have these tools and things like, so I'm just kind of curious if you feel that tension or that difference.
I would say there's a difference. I think the way that I've used it, I'm able to do a lot more. And I feel like I do a ton. And without AI, I wouldn't be able to do all that what I am able to do, and be able to, expand on my experiences and learning opportunities. So, if AI was not available and I, had this not traditional, but like a prior AI university experience, it definitely I would not be able to do all that I'm able to do day in and day
interesting.
out.
Same with you, Caleb?
Actually, for me, university has been far from what I once believed was the traditional
hopefully in
experience.
A good way. Yes.
In a wild and rugged individual, like a cowboy type way here in Arizona. But, what I once imagined was, we'd be sitting around and the professor would smoke a cigar or drink a little bit of.
We haven't been able to do that for years.
But you still came.
Yes. And so it's been, it's been in a ride.
Yeah. But also, with your immersion with AI, and of course, both of you came here, as we've said, sort of being familiar with the tools. How do you learn about new tools? And how do you sort of develop your sort of AI usage? Are there things at ASU that help you there, or is this just you on your own voyage of discovery?
I would say both, but definitely my peers have a huge input. You can glance. I sometimes will glance across, my peers' computers, and I'll see different AI tools they will have pulled up, and I will
So
voyage and experience.
I'm just thinking this because usually my experience when I peer over is Facebook's open, or actually not Facebook because that's a little old, but whatever. TikTok. Yes.
No, but I would say it's peers,
right.
And I have a few professors that use it and discuss it as well. So.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. But nothing formal. There's no sort of like ASU resource where you think, what can I do today, and sort of go to that. It's all sort of organic by the sounds of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Sort of, it's an organic.
Yeah.
So I have a question about that. As I'm just curious, is it something that's sort of like openly like, oh, I use it for this, you should try it, or is it just that discovery of like, what are you doing? That looks interesting. What are you doing over there? Right. And I mean, so let me ask it maybe this way. Is it something where you trade these as you would podcast recommendations? Or is it more of a competitive thing of like, am I being disadvantaged by not having that tool?
I finished my reading in 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm curious. Maybe it's maybe a mix of all. I don't know.
I wouldn't say competitive. I also think it depends on the class. Some classes I don't have AI pulled out because it's more taboo, I would say. But in other classes, I will have peers that be like, no, use this. Like I will have peers pull up AI, like a certain AI device on my phone and say, no, plug in the readings into this. This is the most effective way I've used it.
Yes.
And it's almost like a community builder in a way of like helping one another
This
out.
makes me feel so good because I write about this idea of
it's like the
playground.
Well, Pokemon AI. It's got to catch them all.
Right. That's right. Or the playground. The idea that this is an AI playground and you're all sort of learning
this
together.
One's fun.
And
try
sort
this,
of playing and you see somebody else do something and you try that. It's like kids in a playground.
Yeah.
Those cultures and circles of AI trading cards and like they haven't quite formed.
Okay.
But I would say the majority of students are still, it's still the preference to speak to each other and one-on-one. And so, perhaps we'll see that, and especially as some of these companies open up access, and they're now targeting students. And
sure, I know. Perplexity.
Do you have the Perplexity account? Because they were really trying to get students enrolled.
Very much trying to get students. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's now it's I feel we're on the verge of this really Pokemon.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm still kind of curious. Like I think about. So, I mean, obviously you can only answer from your own, anecdotal experiences. Are most students that you talk with or that are in your classes that you interact with, are they as forthcoming as the two of you with the tools they use? Or is there a lot of like, I'm going to hold it secret which tools I'm using because you maybe just never know the motive of why people would be less than sort of, open about like, oh, I use, ChatGPT for this and I use, Perplexity for this. But I mean, are there students who are just like, I don't know. I'm curious from like, are your peers as equally open to sharing their experiences with these or no?
I would say, in one of my classes, everybody discusses AI, but there's a few other, I would say that it's taboo and it's not discussed. And, sometimes it's definitely an environment where it's just nobody.
And how does that environment come about? And does a professor come in and say, thou shalt not use AI? Or do you just get the vibe that this is not a good idea?
In one of my classes, the professors come forward and said, it's an energy class.
Okay.
It's a touchy subject, and I would say so.
Interesting.
I'd try to avoid using AI in that class just because the professor advises us not to.
Sure.
But it's definitely
Yeah.
I would
interesting.
Say, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You find the same.
Yeah. I think it's talked of in passing.
Okay. Yes.
It's a hidden language.
I guess, but this is the jagged edge where some people are way ahead and other people.
And I'm curious too. I mean, again, I it's hard not to put myself in your shoes now with like if a professor comes in, for example, and is like, AI is not allowed for my course or this thing. I mean, do people take that serious, or is it more of just that snicker of like, yeah, okay, oh, sure, right. Yep, you got it, pal. Like, I mean, I'm just kind of curious because I think from, it's like in my mind, I'll take you back to where I was in like 2002 or something, right? Which is like, I'm going to use any technology that I can, because why would I not? And also it's like, you could say, oh, you're not allowed to use calculators in here. Okay, fine. But like, there was always a mentality of like, how can you remove me using the technology from me learning and things like that? So I'm just curious, like, does that, me personally, if someone came in and said that, you'd be like, well, how would you ever know what I do? How would you ever know how I'm using even if, like, you could be potentially barred from using it directly as taking output and moving that over. But in terms of using it for your own learning, how can you say you're not allowed to use a tool for any, like,
it's definitely, well, it's the culture that the professors create, and also within the students. I would say in some aspects, I would say some groups of students that are, when you discuss like the negatives and the harms and, this, to like be really pessimistic about the technology. There is
that I was actually wondering which way you were going to go there, because I can imagine that there are some groups of students who say we should be doing this more, we should just be embracing everything, and then there are groups of students who say no, this is evil, we should actually ban this if we possibly could. I do see those two extremes.
I definitely do. And it falls along, and it's hard to be a student that's in both of these areas where it's like you
have to code switch back and forth between groups, right?
Oh goodness me, AI code switching.
That's great. Never heard of it.
Exactly.
It's when Caleb is walking along and somebody says, "Who are you talking to?" My mother.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yes.
It's fascinating to me to think about just what it's like to be in the students' shoes when it's like it's this pervasive element of our, to be honest, of our society at present, because we talk about this a lot. The challenges of even if you were trying to, do you think you could actively remove AI touch points from your digital lives? I don't see how you would be able to easily anyway.
Certainly from this conversation, I would, if I threatened to take all of your AI away from you, you haven't given me any indications that you would be happy about that. But also, I'm fascinated. This is going back to these sort of two camps in these discussions. So you're both in a school that explores some of the challenges of navigating new technologies in society and thinking about how they impact the future. So how do you navigate this? Because there is nuance here. And I'm going to look at you, Caleb, because I know that you're a tech geek. You love tech. You love what we can do with tech. How do you manage this tension where there are possibly things that are actually going to be bad if we use these technologies in the wrong way?
I'm very careful in the ways that I use it. And I mean, yes, I'll have conversations and about down these rabbit holes, but really it's, the way I see AI as of late is it's like to me a library of Babel. It's like the library of Babel, like Bourget.
Yes.
And it reminds me of it's just all these different combinations of letters and words, and I'm trying to extract the books that have meaning to them. So
it's a meaning maker.
It's a meaning maker. Yes. And so if it's not doesn't have meaning to me once, in certain responses or the conversation goes in a direction where it's like, this is not doing something for me, then I'm also very careful about sharing personal information.
Of course, yes. But so you had that sort of sense of how you use it smartly and responsibly.
It must be bolstering the intellect and the trajectories.
And then do you ever think of hallucinations? So let me just preface this by saying 2.5 years ago, when ChatGPT sort of hit the scene, everybody was obsessed with hallucinations. And my sense is that a lot of people who actually don't use AI are still obsessed with hallucinations. Does it even cross your mind thinking about where it might be wrong?
If something to me is compelling, very compelling. If there's a story about a knight of the order that was I have to say, was this a real figure? And so I go and make sure to see if this is a real person.
Follow up, right?
I follow up, because otherwise, I worry sometimes if all of my learning is constructed around AI, how much what are my blind spots here?
Oh, sure.
What percentage of it is
right.
is am
You've
I
been
learning
boiled,
that's
my friend.
not real?
Right. Yeah. But I really interested that you've got these faculties where yes, you're listening, but you're also questioning. You're actually using your
continuous question into AI.
Yeah. Same with you. I guess this doesn't really apply to Spotify and listening to music, but I mean other areas.
Yeah. Wait, can you repeat?
Yeah.
Or even I can even interject with a different question too. Because kind of moving outside of sort of like school related tasks and things. One thing I'm curious about for, young professionals your age, how are you using the AI tools as part of your self-expression? Like the music thing I think fits in there in a sense. Yeah. But like, do you find in terms of your own personal creative outlets, whatever they may be, like, are you using AI in those elements of your lives as well? Are they informing the way that you're creating imagery or the way that you're presenting yourself on social media or, because I think about that as this big piece because, in obviously when we have undergraduate students, there's a big focus on our sort of scholarship and academic profile and persona, but we're human. And a big part of that is your own self-expression, who you are, what stickers do you have on your laptop or, all these things. But I'm curious how, or if you're using these same AI tools in some ways to just craft your own, they become part of your persona of artistic choices, expression. I'm curious in that sense.
I mean, I haven't, and I wish I have.
Today is the day.
Like, right. I would say I've struggled a little bit, quote unquote, with like art in itself.
Right.
I'm curious. I definitely will. I foresee myself using it in a way of art. With creating a video for a class, and like I will be using AI art for like animation aspects and other ways, but I would say artistically I've not used AI,
right.
and I foresee myself using it, but I've not currently.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Haven't made a Suno song about your experiences or something.
I mean, so I've seen my peers use the one interesting way I've seen it used is I had a peer make Valentines for all of everybody, and there were poems that he put. He described us all, and then created poems.
So they're all personalized.
Yeah, personalized poems.
How do you feel about that?
I remember.
Yeah, what's more meaningful? Do you get a Valentine from like an AI generated thing, or like you're like
it's when you get a Valentine from Arthur, you'll know that something is
exactly. Like, how do you know? Like, what do you didn't put any thought and care into this at all.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
fun.
Yeah. How about you? Is it all sort of curiosity and sort of academic stuff, or?
Not quite. So what I will say is
it's going to get juicy here.
Yeah. What I'm about to say, I will ground what I'm about to say in that I'm a very professional and practical person.
But, that's going to be cut when this ends.
Yeah. There's a bleep button on here somewhere. Yeah.
So I'm going on somewhat of a travel journey this upcoming year, and I thought to myself, I'm like a traveling nomad or a merchant, and I thought to myself, and this is all in the realm of creative expression. So I start talking with Arthur, and I say, what are some of the old small wooden instruments that ancient Greeks or travelers used to play as they walk around and skip around. And so we used to have this conversation about small wooden like lyres and and
the lute, the lyre,
the lutes and the lyre, and this evolution into the guitar and the ukulele. It's like, so that's a way where it's like, okay, this has historical and like it's interesting. So now I'll purchase a lyre, and as I'm going around on this next journey, I want to be playing the lyre.
But you have to skip, which a very undervalued mode of transportation. I will just say,
skip.
like it's fun. Okay, anyone who's listening and all of us today, skip at some point today. You can't do it without a smile. I'm just telling you, skipping it's an undervalued mode of transportation.
Right. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, but I find it so funny that you felt you had to preface this by saying you're a professional person, because I think what you've described makes you an interesting person, which is way more important than professional.
Well, and right off the bat too, I'm like, Caleb, do you play Dungeons and Dragons? You should. You should. If you don't, you should. Just listening to the things that you're asking your AI, the things you're doing, I'm like, oh man, you need to play some D&D. It's in your future, I think.
I have a few buddies who say come play D&D.
You should just give it a try. I think you will enjoy it.
Yeah. So then we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah.
We could talk forever. But how plugged in are you both to sort of where AI is going? So you're both using the tools, you're both incorporating them into your lives. Do you have a sense of where the breakthroughs are coming and where this might lead over the next 3 to 5 years?
I would say I'm doing a project on adaptive learning in AI, and that's one way I could foresee. You discussed the playpen to playpen idea, and I would think that's how I believe AI is heading within the education sector. Yeah. But I would not say I'm not very good at foresighting.
And I'm really interested in this. So Caleb, before I sort of come in, because I'm fascinated.
Yeah, I mean, within the academic space, it's going to be more adopted more universally, I feel.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm really interested in, a new breakthrough, are and I've been looking at this for a while, but the machines and the figure one,
the robots.
The robots.
You've actually got embodied AI, whether it's got a physical presence.
The embodied AI, and this could be take many forms, I feel. But that once we get into that space, that's going to be a breakthrough. I feel it's going to.
Yeah. Arthur could literally walk back next to you.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think I want to be a hermit and move to a monastery as a monk.
Well, actually, it comes back. I've written about this. Sort of, what does it mean to sort of learn or be an academic or an intellectual in an age of AI, where AI can do so much more than you, so much faster? But the reason I asked is I'm not quite sure whether you'll be able to answer this, but I'm fascinated to know whether you think that being part of this university environment, this academic environment, whether you should be being exposed to some of the really big things that are coming along, not the little things like ChatGPT, but the cutting edge of AI where it's potentially going to transform everything, even beyond what you're seeing at the moment. Is there a sense that this is something that students should be exposed to, or something that they should just discover on their own?
I believe students should be exposed to this 100%. Yeah. It's just how can we navigate the future if we're not currently exposed to it?
Sure.
Yeah. I feel as if I just fed you the lines there. That's exactly.
Well, I think a question that I would have too, that I want to make sure I get in before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Because I've asked you guys a lot of questions too about back when you were coming into the university and all this stuff. But I would be curious in terms of your look to the future in terms of profestional,
as well. Professional, all this ties in, yes,
it all ties together. And what we are right now are at this, how broad or narrow this inflection point will be yet to be understood. But I mean, there's lots of conversation around, artificial intelligence taking the jobs of, or humans with artificial intelligence being more. There's lots of different sort of elements of these conversations. And I'm curious from the perspective of both of you who are, you're not ready to go yet, but soon. How have you started to think about this yet? Are you actively seeing different trends? How are you thinking about the potential, even how you'll present yourself as a future professional to be hired in in an industry that is going to be changed one way or another by artificial intelligence? So I'm curious, what's in your minds right now?
Well, I know what's in Caleb's mind. Yeah. Is a picture of a lute playing hermit. So that is going to be his resume.
But I'm curious. How are you thinking about this world? Because it's going to look completely different than the world I stepped into, the world that graduates stepped into 5 years ago. I'm just curious what your thoughts are so far on.
If there's one piece of insight I've learned in the course of this of academia so far, it's that science, technology, and innovation are the underpinnings of the environment and the economy and our societies. And so, being in those spaces, and we don't yet, and I don't feel too much like the recursive technologies are going to be, constantly, creating new science and new technology completely. So I think we need people guiding and steering.
Right.
This.
You still got to have people and what is important to us. Yes.
Must have people because the needs of the world are continuously changing. And the needs of people are continuously changing. And so if the AI is recursive to itself, if it's not meeting the needs of the people or the planet, what's the point?
What's the point? Yes.
So to the career, it's being in the fields of science, technology, and innovation, and then of course when I'm going around playing certain ancient Greek instruments, and being in these international trade spheres has been where I'm looking forward.
Yeah. So, but it sounds like you actually see a positive future, and one way you've no idea what it's going to be like, but it's going to be good.
It's going to be good. My ambitions have risen, and I'm embracing what's to come.
Yeah. How do you feel, Bella?
I would like to echo Caleb's point, but also
you're going to be a lute player. It wasn't a lute, but whatever the instrument was.
You get a lute and a lyre and some kind of percussion instrument. We got a band. We could take this on the road, guys.
My images it's not the image I would imagine.
Yeah. I would say I'm for my career, I'm more thinking about, I want to ensure that accessibility to all these technologies are, available worldwide. So I know AI is going to shape, our future and our world, but I'm more focused on like the justice aspects of things. And that's how I want to take my career.
Yep.
So, we have, science, technology, and innovation shapes our world and our equality and justice and everything that we do. And what I want to do is perpetuate that and ensure that all of that is accessible.
And it feels to me as if it's never been more important. Mm-hmm. The more powerful the technologies become, the more important it is to hold on to what is important in society and being human and making sure that we don't allow that to be swamped.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
awesome.
I just a finishing question, if that's okay, to the two of you. So you are immersed in this incredible university environment at this incredible time when we've got all of these sort of AI-based tools and learning tools and opportunities. What would you advise to all the millions of young people, high school students, which we wish we had listening? But, there are going to be some people listening. What would you advise them in terms of how they think about the future and how they think about their trajectory, whether they come to university or not, or whatever they do? Who wants to start?
No pressure. You just influence the lives of millions of people.
It's a loaded question, I feel.
One, let your imagination lead you and run wild. And then two, if there's anything, tie it to purpose.
Yep.
And tie it to value to the people around you. And then I think, if you're using these tools in that way, then you're no longer you're like we're moving past Homo sapien. We're moving towards it feels like Homo habilis, but now we have new tools, cognitive tools, and moving towards a new Homo sapien.
Yeah. See, this is what happens when you listen to AI so much.
Right.
That's
Only
great.
say good things about me, Caleb. Yes, Arthur.
Bella.
Find you not solidify your purpose, but use these tools, use AI with your purpose, and with the use of AI and all these other tools that we have, you can expand your purpose and use them to benefit those around you and emphasize the humanity aspect of why we are here and why just the human.
Yeah. Well, and these are things we think, as parents, right? These are things we think about all the time. Like, I have small children, 9 and 6. And so people who are in our sphere as parents who have kids of the same age, we don't even know what high school is going to look like for our kids, let alone by the time they're old enough to go into the university systems. Yeah. It's an interesting time.
Wild ride. But again, sort of finishing off, coming back to what you said, Bella, sort of keeping that core of what it means to be human. Yep. What does humanity mean? What does it mean to thrive as a species in this incredible age that's coming out?
Yeah. Well, Well, that's a good place to end.
It is.
I think
so. Yeah.
Fantastic. Bella and Caleb, thank you so much for I mean, it's I don't know if people can see a little bit. It's a gorgeous day on a Friday. Yeah. So thank you for spending some time with us to talk about just your experiences. Because this is, again, we've been talking about you collectively for so long that it's nice to finally
hear from you.
And get to see what your perspective is on all these topics that we just talk over the people who are living right in it often. And so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Andrew, of course, thank you, my friend. And
same here, Sean. Yes. Until next time.
Yeah. Until next time. We'll stuff as much as we can in the show notes for anything you guys want to plug or share, any tools you want to share with our audience. We'll put those in there. But yeah, thanks for joining Modem Futura, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you.
Demodulating signal.
Modem Futura is a production of the Future of Being Human initiative at Arizona State University. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. To learn more about the Future of Being Human initiative and all of our other projects, please visit us on the web at futureofbeinghuman.asu.edu.
End transmission.